Let's talk about Bitcoin. Can Bitcoin replace the dollar? Some people call it the greatest hedge against inflation that man has ever created. Some people call it
antisocial, stupid. No, I regard the thing as a combination of dementia and immorality. And I think the people that are pushing it are a disgrace. Bitcoin is worthless artificial gold. Bitcoin reminds me of Oscar Wilde's The Pursuit of the Uneatable by the Unspeakable. I think it's a scumball activity. Does that better serve you better?
Right here in these chairs on Fox Business, you called it rat poison, but today it's 9,000. It had hit 19,000.
So it's more expensive rat poison.
Some people have went as far as calling it.
I've never seen anything as compelling and unstoppable as Bitcoin.
You are in an industry that collaterally is going to be massively affected by the blockchain. Like really. And the opportunity is extraordinary. Do you understand how big this is? Do you understand just like what the internet did to our society over the next 25 years, decentralized servers that scale are going to completely change the world.
There are 8 billion people on the planet that need digital property, and Bitcoin is the dominant digital property network. So if you zoom out and you ask the question, how are you going to provide economic prosperity to billions of people at the speed of light over a computer network? There's no better idea than Bitcoin.
But can a few lines of code created by an anonymous person that no one has ever actually met disrupt the current financial system and overthrow the most powerful organizations in the world?
Who is Satoshi Nakamoto? It's one of the most important questions in the world. Satoshi Nakamoto is a pseudonymous person or group that created Bitcoin, the decentralized digital currency.
A California man is the focus of international attention this morning. Newsweek reports that he is the mastermind behind Bitcoin.
We've gone through a lot of different guesses as to who Satoshi is. A lot of people have looked into it.
No matter what the future price of Bitcoin may be, the real treasure is blockchain, because it's going to change the world as much as the internet did in the 1990s.
Satoshi Nakamoto did do a very good job of covering his tracks.
Bitcoin is the world's first completely decentralized virtual currency. There is no central bank, no central authority, no corporation behind it. And what this means is really two things. Number one, because there's no central bank can't just choose to make more Bitcoin, print more money, and therefore artificially inflate the currency. The second aspect of it is because there is no central bank, actually no intermediary whatsoever, it means that if the government wanted to shut it down, wanted to prevent from conducting a transaction, they have nowhere to go. It's like cash.
Welcome back. We have the dollar, Japan has the yen, and the internet, it has the Bitcoin.
Yeah, this online currency offers a new way to use money, but many aren't sold on the idea.
Your purchasing power can be wiped out in a nanosecond, and that's why it would never be widely accepted in this country.
I hear you say that, but that doesn't make it true. And I think that there are people who spend a lot of time on this that might know this topic maybe a bit more and who would believe in it.
Believe it or not, this is a currency now being used by more than 100,000 people all over the world who are trading thousands of dollars worth of Bitcoin every day. And just imagine a currency with no middleman, no bank, and no credit card companies.
You confiscate a few $1 billion out of private bank accounts and you print a couple $1 trillion, and all of a sudden, you know what happens? People start to worry. So out of this worry, we have something called the Bitcoin. Too, is that, there's a lot of stories about drug dealers using these kind of things. And I think it's just a matter of it's not regulated, it's not controlled.
The whole Bitcoin market is about $1 billion. It's a novelty for the geek squad. I can assure you if these became well promulgated, that the US government would shut it down.
And to give our viewers some perspective, there's about $4 trillion in currency trading every day. And as Michael said, it's about $1 billion worth of Bitcoins. It has quintupled in value over the last year.
By now, you're probably aware Bitcoin stock has continued to tumble since its peak heyday in 2013, when it was valued at more than $1,100. It's now hovering at around $330 and has dropped more than 50% since the beginning of the year. It led at least one business writer to label the controversial digital currency the worst investment of 2014 and atrociously awful, even when compared to other struggling fiat currencies such as Russia's ruble.
Bitcoin, the form of money, has attracted a pool of $10 billion of wealth over the past 5 years. It's being accepted by over 50,000 merchants worldwide. We have companies like BitPay and Coinbase that are trying very hard, and I would say succeeding, at getting Bitcoin adopted by increasingly large segments of the population. That said, I think we're only getting started.
Money still has to have value. But it doesn't. Money has to have real value. I don't think that this experiment is going to work any better than the fiat experiment. We'll see. The market will tell, because again, I think there's going to be lots of other digital currencies. There already are. There are. And I think eventually there's going to be digital currencies backed by gold. And I think when you have a digital currency backed by something, that's better than a digital currency backed by nothing.
Two-prong announcement. Number one, China's got 20,000 tons of gold. Number two, we're rolling out a crypto coin backed by gold, and the dollar is toast. The dollar's going, like every other paper money in history, to zero.
Right. And you won't have as much volatility. People will be able to have confidence and put larger sums of money. I mean, you can't use Bitcoin as money. How can you make a loan? If I said, look, loan me 100 Bitcoins and I'll pay it back, and how do you know how to deal with a Bitcoin loan? What's the right interest rate? How much is a Bitcoin going to be? And people will tell you, well, this could either be worth $1 million or zero.
Bitcoin was invented less than a decade ago. And prior to its introduction as a cryptocurrency, it had no value whatsoever. I mean, nobody used Bitcoins for anything. And in fact, nobody can use them for anything today. They don't have a real world value. The only thing that you can do with a Bitcoin is give it to somebody else or sell it to somebody else who thinks the price is going to rise, right? So that is the value. It's not a store of value like gold is, because Bitcoin has no inherent value to store. It's a speculative asset that people are hoarding because other people are buying it. But the idea that it's scarce the way gold is scarce is nonsense. Yes.
The gold entomologist, Peter Schiff, these guys have been wrong for months and years and decades even.
Everybody's talking about it now. It's all over the place, yet the price doesn't go up anymore. It stopped going up a few months ago. When everybody found out about it and everybody started talking about it, it went flatline, right, sideways. Now, they're nuts.
Look, I'm a big fan of chaos, so I love when things just go completely off the rails like that.
So I think the best way to look at this is a proxy for the mistrust individuals have of central bankers. If you're willing to take Bitcoin as a currency, a virtual Barbie currency to me, it has no basis, no central banker, no hard asset behind it. But if you don't trust any other currency, this is where you go. So it's essentially what's happening here, Heather. People all around the world are saying, I've had it with my central banker. I don't trust politicians anymore. I'm going to trade with this currency with my computer and my cell phone.
Well, they did that. The reason the Bitcoin shot up was after Cyprus, when they thought the government was going to get the hands on the money in the banks. So people turned to Bitcoins to keep them protected.
So I ignore everything till it gets to $1 billion of market cap.
Okay.
That happened recently with Bitcoin, well over $1 billion in value. So it's here to stay. When you've accumulated a virtual worth of $1 billion and people are willing to trade it and actually buy things with it, turn it back into hard assets. And here's the key, Heather. Owners of hard assets are willing to take Bitcoin. This is here to stay. That's what's going to happen. And no central banker can control it.
Bitcoin denominated assets. What we have learned is that every asset in the financial system is normally denominated in dollars. And so if you think about the dollar over some sort of other asset, you are basically trying to measure the appreciation or depreciation of that asset against the dollar. The problem with doing that is that the dollar is not a stable value. There's over 38% of all dollars in circulation that have been entered in the last 18 months. So the dollar has been rapidly depreciating. And so of course, asset prices are going to go up. The dollar depreciates, the asset gets stronger against that dollar. The S&P 500 has been crashing against Bitcoin for the last decade. It is just down and to the right. Literally, Bitcoin is eating the S&P 500.
By the time of our interview, those Bitcoins would have been worth $800 million.
Yeah.
So, okay, sorry, let me just get this straight. You spent about $800 million on pizzas.
So let's talk about Bitcoin. I see that you've been talking about it quite a bit lately. I find it really fascinating, Max. Give us a sense, I mean, how efficient is this really? Is it really able to fix the economic problems we face?
So it's going to challenge the business models of the big banks. This rise in Bitcoin shows you the real effects of the money printing that's going on at the Federal Reserve Bank. You know, Ben Bernanke in his testimony before Congress will say, well, we don't see any inflation, even though his CPI number that they use to gauge inflation, the average American is experiencing 8 to 10% inflation, and they're wondering, why would the Federal Reserve lie like that? And this is drawing attention to Bitcoin, which is now a $400 million market.
For the first time, a Bitcoin has been valued at more than $10,000, and it's a significant milestone for the cryptocurrency that a year ago was worth just $740. It's an increase of more than 900%.
More and more powerful merchants have started allowing customers to use Bitcoin for purchases. exchanges. Some supporters say this dip in Bitcoin's value is a normal market fluctuation. There are just too many companies jumping on the Bitcoin bandwagon in some form or another, including the great and powerful Microsoft, for businesses to look the other way.
Today, there was a very large transaction. 16,006 Bitcoin, worth about $1 billion, was moved for a transaction fee of $1.75 across the Bitcoin network. Think about that for a second. Somebody moved $1 billion of Bitcoin across the Bitcoin blockchain, and they paid $1.75. The legacy system literally would think that's egregious. Every single middleman, every single rent seeker would want their hands in the pot if somebody was going to go move $1 billion. The bankers would want a little bit, the financial advisors would want a little bit, the platforms would want a little bit, the wire services would want a little bit. Everybody would want to get paid. You want to move $1 billion, well, you got to pay us to do it. The Bitcoin blockchain doesn't care. It literally is going to destroy those middlemen, those rent seekers. And so to move $1 billion for a transaction fee of $1.75 is pretty damn cool.
And a handful of governments have put up hurdles that prevent the digital currency from gaining real traction. In fact, if you backtrack to last December, Bitcoin value started taking a dive right after China banned it.
With Apple stock, if the price goes down, you want to buy more. With Bitcoin, the price goes down and you get really nervous that the bubble's about to pop.
And according to Bloomberg, Ukraine later followed suit with its own ban. Russia's considering fining those who use it, and New York State has a bill in the works that could make record-keeping more tedious for companies that accept it. Bitcoin isn't the only game in town anymore. CoinMarketCap.com, a website that tracks the number of digital currencies on the market, says there's now more than 500 different brands competing against Bitcoin, many of them very recent upstarts. Probably its most legitimate threat is a company called Ripple, which boasts a fast payment system similar to PayPal, though it still has quite a bit of ground to make up to give Bitcoin a run for its digital money.
Back in April, the former CEO of PayPal came out swinging against the crypto universe, calling Bitcoin, quote unquote, the greatest scam in history, adding that it's a pump and dump scheme like anything the world has ever seen.
Well, put your cash and credit cards away. PayPal now giving shoppers the chance to, quote, check out with crypto. A new feature unveiled today allows U.S. customers to buy items from merchants using cryptocurrencies from their mobile wallets. And it's not just Bitcoin this time. PayPal will allow checkout using Litecoin, Ethereum, and Bitcoin Cash as well, without any additional transaction fees.
Now he's back with an even bolder call, saying Bitcoin is headed straight to zero. Let's bring in Bill Harris, the former PayPal CEO. Bill, welcome. Good to see you in person.
Thanks. You know, I'm delighted that you like buying into weakness, because I think you'll have a lot of opportunity to do that.
Oh, yowza! Well, there you go. We'll see. The market will tell us.
You can sum it up this way. The cult of Bitcoin make many claims that it's instant, free, scalable, efficient, secure, globally accepted, and useful. It is none of those things.
We have some news just out this morning from PayPal. The company's Venmo app will now allow its 70 million customers to buy, hold, and sell cryptocurrency. Now, the rollout begins today, and it's going to be available to all customers in the next few weeks. Customers can choose from Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, and Bitcoin Cash.
Look at how difficult it is to get money from one country across the border to another. It's slow, it's expensive, it's all those things. Agreed. You don't need Bitcoin, you don't need XRP, you don't need any of that to solve that problem. What you need is faster networks.
Well,
and in fact,
and there's some regulatory issue with that. But people are still using it for that case.
Hardly ever. I mean, this whole notion of broadly accepted, globally accepted, all of that, I dare you to find places where you can actually use it.
There's about 200,000 places you can use it worldwide.
And it's that very dominating Bitcoin presence that leads a Vox writer to believe the cryptocurrency's financial network is too powerful now for the government to try and hamstring its growth. Bitcoin has more powerful allies than it did 2 years ago. If the regulators were going to try to shut it down, they would have done it 2 years ago when it was still a fringe technology with no real support among elites. Now it's too late.
If we go to the commodities world, typically the bottom is the marginal cost of production. There was talk in 2015 of 200 being that bottom for a lot of miners. Again, in this 3,500 to 4,500 range.
$200.
In 2015.
That was the cost to mine one Bitcoin.
Yes.
For the servers, the electricity,
Iran, all of that.
But a writer for the Washington Post argues Bitcoin's system is doomed to fail because governments have a lot of say when it comes to any financial system and can put pressure on those institutions as it sees fit. Up to this point, regulators have largely tolerated Bitcoin as a curiosity and experiment. If Bitcoin were ever to threaten to become a truly decentralized payments network owned by no one, regulators would know very well what to do with it.
Let's get back to China's increasing crackdown on crypto. It looks like they've gone absolute at this point, saying on the PBOC website they will ban all transactions, or that all crypto transactions are illegal.
They can be a price
Is
setter.
this the first time it costs more to mine a Bitcoin than the actual value of the Bitcoin? So
Right now, I think this is one of the most unique times in terms of miners across the board being
This is a
worried,
huge
but it's
washout.
not all miners, because there are miners who potentially in China or other regions get massive cuts on electricity.
You know, every few months or years, there's something else about China cracking down. Today, it seemed to gain new urgency after one of the major exchanges said it was going to halt trading at the end of the month. But obviously, Bitcoin had been falling even ahead of that sort of announcement.
Yeah, back when we were talking about 20,000, if you have a whole generation of investors washed out of this who say, you know what, this was too painful for me, I can't do this again, this is Beanie Babies or whatever it is, you know?
Yeah.
And so the question is, who's going to come in to pick up the slack? Is there a new generation of investors going to say, I missed it the first time, now I got to do it now?
To use a word that Peter Thiel used, are just betting on this. It's get rich quick. They want to be millionaires, and this seems like a really great, cool, newfangled lottery ticket for them.
Yeah. One of the things that's very important to understand about Bitcoin is that it didn't just fall from the sky. We have a timeline that shows all of the backwork, all the pre-work that went into actually getting Bitcoin launched and becoming what it has become today.
I gave the first TED Talk on Bitcoin in 2011 when it was trading at $1.
Wow.
Okay? Nobody.
Did you buy it then?
I did. No, I didn't have to.
Good for you.
Didn't have to. I could mine it on a laptop then.
Oh, wow.
So at that point, nobody in the audience understood a word I was talking about. It was really fun.
So the thing about bubbles, you go back to the, we've all been through them. We haven't been through them, we know about them. The tulip bulb scandal, the South Seas bubble, the dot-com bubble. And now, years from now, we're going to look back at the Bitcoin bubble.
And to this, exactly 1 year ago today, Bitcoin, the world's most valuable cryptocurrency, reached a record high of $19,783 per coin. Fast forward to this afternoon, and it stands at just a seventh of that.
And so we're excited because the fundamentals are still there. The technology that has been created, this blockchain that enables a distributed set of people to create consensus and power a new generation of financial instruments, that's still there.
So you're not concerned about it having been at 19,000, and in just a year, it's now at 3,000.
But what we're seeing is that in these past 10 years, there have been 4 or 5 times when Bitcoin's retraced 80 or 90% of its value. And that's the nature of a cyclical early stage market. We expect that to even out as time continues, but for the time being, we have to expect big booms and big busts in such an early industry.
I want to show you a Bitcoin at $20,000 and $150 per coin. That's what you got. It's up
Record.
$3,000 up.
Look, Bitcoin may be young, but it's going to have a very short life because the problem is the underlying premise is flawed. Bitcoin will never be money. It doesn't have the characteristics that would qualify it as money. It's just a speculative asset that has no real underlying value. It will never be a store of value because it has no value to store.
Bitcoin up more than 170%, and today we got the candle to put on top of the cake as the cryptocurrency topped $20,000 per coin for the first time in history. Want to see where it's trading right now, up above that $20,600 level right now.
What value does Bitcoin have? Why is it worth $20,000 a coin or $2,000 a coin or $2 a coin?
If you actually understand blockchain, it's really hard to wrap your head around how Russia, China, and America are going to accept and allow this to happen.
Welcome back. China is intensifying its crackdown on cryptocurrency. The government ordering the country's biggest banks to, quote, strictly implement rules that restrict them from providing crypto-related services. This as Chinese officials are ordering a shutdown of crypto mining in several regions of the country, effectively closing more than 90% of its Bitcoin mining capacity.
If you actually understand what blockchain does, it takes away all the leverage that the countries in our world have outside of their atomic bombs and their armies. It is a substantially big platform.
To Russia now, Russia's central bank has proposed a blanket ban on the use and creation of all cryptocurrencies. The country is one of the biggest crypto mining nations in the world. Officials say digital tokens bear the hallmarks of a pyramid scheme and undermine the sovereignty of monetary policy.
Please understand that if you believe in the nirvana of complete and utter blockchain at scale, that you're talking about substantial World War III fucking dynamics.
Let me ask you a common sense question. If this was some small shit, do you think China would ban it?
The crackdown from the Communist Party continued this week, and the risks of investing in Chinese companies continues to rise. It's something that I've been reporting about extensively on this program now for years. The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission Chair Gary Gensler is also warning investors about these risks. He joins me right now.
Ideas such as if you've got a great deal of resources, you can buy a load of bitcoins, you can manage it, manipulate it, powerful people can influence it by speaking ill of it in the public sphere, for example. It does seem to be at least a breach into a new economic territory that is untethered from ordinary financial power or conventional or at least existing.
And there's an old saying about how markets, they take the stairs up and the elevator down. Well, Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, they took a rocket ship up. So if they're going to go down faster than they went up, and markets always go down faster than they go up. I mean, this thing is going to implode. And so the people who don't get out in advance are just going to get trapped in this thing because when it goes down, this thing could fall 80 or 90% in one day.
New rule, if you invested all your money in virtual currency, don't be surprised when it virtually disappears. Who could have predicted this? Virtually everyone. Yes, the internet's biggest Bitcoin exchange collapsed after hackers stole all the Bitcoins. Oh no, and I was saving for a unicorn. I'm no big fan of Citibank, but I trusted more than 3 guys in a basement playing Dungeons and Dragons. Are you familiar with Bitcoin? I went on the Occupy Wall Street website. You can contribute in Bitcoins.
Do Bitcoins work on all sites?
Just the ones that have the proper slot. Right. And finally, new rule, nothing with crypto in the title ever turns out good. There is a mania rising in the country these days about cryptocurrency and how the train is leaving the station, so you better get on. Tesla has jumped in with both feet, and Microsoft accepts it for software now. Etsy accepts it now, and so does PayPal and Starbucks and Whole Foods and Home Depot. 1 in 10 Americans used their stimulus checks to invest in one of thousands of cryptocurrencies in existence, Bitcoin being the most famous, but there's also Ethereum, Binance, Tether, even one called Cumrocket. There's also one called Dogecoin that someone started as a joke, but as far as I can tell, it's exactly the same as all the other cryptocurrencies because the whole thing is a joke.
Prepare yourselves. I'm about to defend crypto. Look, last week tonight, Bill Maher did a segment on cryptocurrency, which was so bad, so embarrassing, and simultaneously so smug that not only do I have to address the problems here, I also feel like I owe it to everyone to point out that Bill Maher is misinformed about every new technology that he's talked about.
Finally, new rule, and finally, new rule, nothing with crypto in the title ever turns out good.
Today is Bitcoin Day. What the hell does Bitcoin Day mean? Today is the day that El Salvador has officially made Bitcoin legal tender within the country. But this is a nation state, the very first nation state to openly adopt Bitcoin as legal tender and to make a Bitcoin purchase. Yesterday, he came out and he said tomorrow, for the first time in history, all the eyes of the world will be on El Salvador. Bitcoin did this. It's pretty incredible when you think about a young president, regardless of what you think about his intentions or him as a person. The ability to take a country that people knew was a country, but really didn't know much about it, and to immediately vault it onto the global stage in such a profound way in such a short period of time.
How much success you might have with a country like China that has already thrown some cold water in the idea of cryptos there, and where they want almost in total control of what happens to your finances.
Well, that's why China has banned it effectively, because they realize they can't control it. And that's why places like the United States, where we care about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, fundamentally principally we're so aligned. But what we have seen is El Salvador did make Bitcoin legal tender.
How's that working out?
In less than 1 month from the day that it started, which was September 7th or Bitcoin Day, over 50% of the population of the country had downloaded a Bitcoin wallet. So
consumers and businesses are increasingly using digital tokens for payments, despite the volatility. Our next guest thinks this is just the beginning for decentralized finance.
Today we get a Bitcoin futures ETF. ProShares is the first company to actually get one trading.
Are cryptos going to take over the U.S. currency, or will they exist side by side with U.S. currency as they do now?
Well, there's going to be a parallel economy. They're going to be side by side. This is just what the benefits of what technology is doing is it's creating alternatives. I don't believe it's threatening the U.S. dollar. Remember, I was also the founder of Tether, where we invented the stablecoin. When we created the first U.S. digital dollar, it's doing $100 billion a day in transactional volume. So governments are also looking at it, central banks saying, wow, this technology can be used to enhance our monetary system. They're seeing benefits from it.
Welcome back. It's been a huge week for crypto. The second U.S. Bitcoin ETF begins trading today.
My friends, this is big. This is the single biggest thing that has happened since the internet itself. Social media was a monster thing in the middle because communication dictates everyone's decisions. It was big. That's why POC committed to it. But this blockchain thing for this industry is extraordinarily big because it's going to touch it fast. I would highly recommend people spend their 20 to 50 hours to get educated on what Ethereum is and what a smart contract looks like. Because I have a funny feeling if you actually do, if you actually put in the 20 to 50 hours, I think there's a ton of gold at the end of that rainbow. More importantly, you have 5 years to go on offense with what I'm talking about. If you do nothing in that 5 years, your years 6 through 10 is going to be defense on it.
Right. And I'm a big fan of blockchain.
I am too. I take that as a given.
That leads into the fact, can
yes.
Bitcoin or Ethereum or any of them be currencies?
Right.
And they can't be because you can't transact right now. Right? If they were truly currencies, you wouldn't try to convert them or value them based off of other currencies.
Bitcoin's $1 trillion boom, the cryptocurrency hitting a new milestone, topping $57,000 before sliding overnight. As you can see, it is at $55,000 this morning.
As we start the week, let's take a look at Bitcoin price. Bitcoin at around $62,000, up about 1.4% or so. S&P, gold, silver, euro, yen, renminbi, and oil, all trash assets in comparison, because when fiscal and monetary policy is out of control, people need a store of value that protects their purchasing power. And that is exactly what we're watching happen with Bitcoin.
Is really focused right now in having conversations with foreign governments, leaders of nations, and really assist with advocacy work, evangelism, and basically policy advising.
Now, central banks around the world differ on many issues, whether they're for negative interest rates or not, but one thing they don't differ on is their thirst for power. They love the power that they have, and they're very reluctant to give it up, and frankly, I think they're afraid of cryptos, don't you?
If we go ahead and we look at the individual stats of the network, $1.16 trillion market cap. Very, very high and growing. The inflation rate, 1.78%. There's 89% of the supply that is in circulation. About $10 billion was settled on chain in the last 24 hours. One of my favorite statistics is, what is that mining reward value? The Bitcoin miners were paid $56.2 million over the last 24 hours to secure the network. The Bitcoin network is the most decentralized, secure, largest, most powerful computer network in the world, and that $56 million getting paid out to the miners is a big part of it. We are now about 4 to 5% off of the all-time high. The all-time high is around $64,800 or so, and my guess is that we are going to break that shortly.
Yes, so I was with the president of Ecuador, Panama, Honduras, Guatemala a couple of days ago. I've got 30 other presidents in line. Right now, there is so much interest, and because of how successful El Salvador has been, People are really curious. I'm not there to tell them what to do, but I'm giving them the information because the data doesn't lie.
Bitcoin, it's really soared in value. This is after attracting a new fan, Steve.
It's the electric car maker Tesla, which has given the cryptocurrency its biggest corporate endorsement yet by announcing the company was buying $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin, despite warnings over its volatility. Perhaps even more significantly, Tesla says it will start accepting Bitcoin as payment for its cars on what it calls a limited basis.
DeFi is decentralized finance, so it's a way to do banking activities on decentralized ledgers. The way it works right now is the investment products, the lending products, the yields can be huge. 20%, 9%. Think about that. Interest rates are below 1.5%.
Hey guys, what's up? Square just announced their earnings for Q3, and they have some big numbers in here. $1.82 billion in Bitcoin revenue in Q3. $1.82 billion is a big number. Jack was also asked about other cryptocurrencies, and in it, they said, will you add anything else to Square's Cash App or to the balance sheet? He said, no, we're not. Our focus is on helping Bitcoin to become the native currency for the internet, and we have a number of initiatives towards that goal. Also, allegedly, they are going to publish in mid-November the white paper for their brand new Bitcoin business. Remember, Jack Dorsey, his entire focus is to make Bitcoin the native currency of the internet. It is pretty compelling when you see somebody who is one of the best entrepreneurs of our lifetime, as somebody who's built two multi-billion-dollar companies that are publicly traded, and saying, all I am focused on is on Bitcoin. I am trying to figure out how the hell to make this a native currency of the internet.
Now, these are itsy-bitsy economies compared to the United States or other European countries. Is there any transfer, or is it just unique to the size of these countries, the small size of these economies?
Well, first movers are typically those that are going to be more nimble and where the need is greater. Obviously, the bigger you get, you don't need to be first. You have the benefit of being able to watch and see how it's worked elsewhere, and then you get the pleasure of going, oh, this really works, let's do something. It's the smaller places that benefit most from, making big moves.
Have you seen any interest at all on the part of the Fed?
So, I was in the Senate yesterday, and I'm constantly in conversations with our elected officials, our civil servants, our regulators, legislators, everybody. And there's genuine interest. The real issue that I see is that most people just don't know enough. And so the main thing that I'm tackling is just education, education, and education. Because the more informed everyone is, the more sensible the decisions they'll make that are ultimately, this is our future.
Steve, I'm not sure I've ever asked you this before, but do you dabble in crypto?
I think the real crypto of the future is what they call stablecoins. Those are cryptocurrencies tied to a specific asset like gold or the dollar. I think those things in the future, properly done and with transparency. We don't have enough transparency in the assets so-called backing up these cryptocurrencies, stablecoins. But when they get the transparency and make some changes, I see these crypto coins being a challenge to government money, being an alternative to the dollar, the euro, and the pound and other currencies. That's what I see in the next 5 years unfolding.
So just for the record, I think year over year, I look Bitcoin's up about 170% on a 12-month basis. So just to put things in perspective. The irony here, we're talking about Bitcoin going up and down in fiat currency, and really currency that government dictates as value. And gold has been the anchor for the past 3,000 years of this forced marketplace, this government system. Bitcoin represents the first open, voluntary marketplace. There's no force when you exit, you just sell the token. That's your vote. That provides you access to the software, entries into this database.
It doesn't matter. In dollar terms, gold is going to infinity. In dollar terms, Bitcoin is going to infinity because the dollar is going to zero, like every piece of garbage fiat money before it.
If you go all the way back to the 1970s, you can see on this timeline that Bitcoin is the recipient, the beneficiary of so much computer science work. That work includes things like the invention of TCP/IP. It includes things like the new directions in cryptography in 1976 from Whitfield Diffie. It also includes things like Merkle coming out with the protocols for public key crypto systems. It also includes things like Murray Rothbard's The Ethics of Liberty. So sometimes it is computer science, it is actually technical in nature, and other times it is simply things around the ethos. If you fast forward, you can start to see things like David Chaum in 1983 coming out with the blind signatures for untraceable payments. If you go all the way up and you look at other attempts at digital currencies, DigiCash in 1989 or CyberCash in 1994, eGold in 1996, but including also things like the creation of proof of work, Atom Back, Hashcash, DOS, countermeasure with proof of work system in 1997. Over and over and over again, we had multiple increases in the potential of the technology. We continued to push the ball forward, including things like a Cypherpunks Manifesto in 1993 or Timothy C. May, the Cryptonomic in 1994. But then eventually we got all the way to things like BitTorrent in 2001, Hal Finney coming out in 2004 with reusable proof of work, and then eventually the Bitcoin white paper, Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system in October 31st, 2008. And then we got the launch in early January of 2009, where Bitcoin launched in that Genesis block having the message, Chancellor on the brink of second bailouts for banks. That ultimately led to Bitcoin being launched to the public and more people starting to come in and creating a decentralized digital currency that is adopted by 100+ million people around the world, everyone from individuals to corporations, financial institutions, and now nation states using this asset. But because we do not know who Satoshi Nakamoto is, nobody can attack the creator. It is simply an idea. In fact, we are all Satoshi. Satoshi is the pursuit of freedom. Satoshi is the pursuit of the individual sovereign. And that ultimately is the beauty of Bitcoin, is that nobody knows who created it, but everyone can evaluate the idea and the code for themselves. And as more and more people continue to go down the rabbit hole and evaluate Bitcoin, they continue to adopt the digital store of value. We now have over $1 trillion asset that was created by a pseudonymous person or group. Satoshi Nakamoto, one of the most impactful people in the world. But the ultimate thing that Satoshi did was not create Bitcoin, but it was simply to walk away and never reveal their identity.
I really wanted to make this video to help educate everybody on how well the media will push the narrative in whatever direction they want. The facts are there, the statistics are there. Bitcoin is the purest form of money. It is the American dream. And I can't thank everybody enough. Everybody that goes out of their way to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, y'all mean the world to me. Keep stacking those Satoshis. The next year is going to be very, very interesting. And I think that the only asset that has the ability to give the power back to the little man, it's Bitcoin. It really is. It's truly phenomenal. I can't talk highly of it. I have to stop talking because I love you guys and I love Bitcoin and I can't wait to see it succeed and really see how the next couple years play out. Thank you guys.